And now it's time for the first of those programmes, the news from ITN. Your newscaster, Leonard Parkin. A time check for you. It's exactly 5:45.
The news at 5:45 with Leonard Parkin.
The battle for bargain basement flights to Europe. The Labour Party inquiry, another victory for the left-wingers. The Rovers return and the other ITV regulars are back. Good evening, again. It's good to be back again, so let me simply say, let's get on with it. And tonight's top story, the fight to cut the cost of flying to Europe. The biggest battle over airfares since SkyTrain began today. It's a battle that could cut the cost of flying to Europe by up to 80%. Sir Freddie Laker, British Caledonian, and two other firms are fighting to open up the corridors to the continent for the cheapest fares ever. If they get their way, it would be as cheap to fly to France or to Germany from London as it is to take a train to Scotland. It's being called the Airfares Revolution, and the battle lines were drawn up today at a Civil Aviation Authority inquiry in London.
The Laker plans for a major network of low-fare SkyTrain-type flights between continental cities would, according to the chairman of the inquiry, sweep away the present airline system and substitute a free-for-all. But although the Common Market Commission is behind the drive for lower fares, it prefers a slower, evolutionary approach to the Laker revolution. British Caledonian thinks it's more on the right lines for the immediate future, offering reductions of up to 80% on off-peak scheduled flights on 23 routes. Using existing BAC 111 aircraft, it wants to start services in the spring. Laker couldn't start its Euro SkyTrain till December next year. His plan to cream off demand for cheap flights between mainland European cities will anger most national airlines. Here's how the fares would come down. For example, Paris, normal one-way economy fare £47, would be £21 flying Laker, or as little as £15.50 on BCAL's cheapest standby fare. Athens, normal economy £188, would be £50 with Laker, or £45 under the BCAL last-minute standby. Laker hopes other countries will accept his plans peacefully, but threatens an all-out legal battle if they won't.
We will take each individual government to the European Court. That is the law of Europe. It's not what we think, or they think, or the airlines think. It's what the law says, and the law in this case is dictated by the European Court of Justice. So we're not talking about Pandora's boxes and all that rubbish. We are talking about competition, the freedom of entry, the freedom of people to do what they want to do and not have it imposed upon them by a lot of funny airlines.
The Labour Party's left wing have scored another victory and have effectively snubbed Mr. Callaghan. The party national executive decided at a stormy meeting that left-wingers will dominate the inquiry set up to investigate the party structure. Mr. Callaghan wanted MPs to have more say on the inquiry, but he had little to say himself when he left the meeting.
We'll wait. You better wait for the General Secretary.
And he was raring to go.
How are you? Yes.
ITN have naturally missed a number of major news stories while they've been off the air.
Historic stories, like the Mountbatten story, like the start of the Zimbabwe Rhodesian Conference and so on. There's been an enormous amount going on in the last 11 weeks.
What's the common question that everyone's been asking you while you've been off?
How are you keeping yourself busy? What are you doing?
What have you been doing?
Well, I've got the smartest house in Hertfordshire, I think. It's been painted. I reckon I've saved myself a small fortune doing it myself. I've been doing all those odd jobs that middle-aged married men keep putting off, and they're now done.
It's been an uneasy return to work in some areas with a few local difficulties, but all the companies are now back on the air.
A report on the use of asbestos in Britain.
This was a special steel products factory Chairman Hua went to see, making, for example, titanium, which China will need if it starts building its own civilian and military aircraft. So the visit was a reminder that China, short now of foreign exchange after its first big spending spree, is going to be very choosy indeed about where it spends from now on, insisting, for example, on high quality, delivery on time, and above all, the keenest possible price. Michael Brunson, ITN, Krefeld, West Germany.
Delegates to the Lancaster House talks talks on Zimbabwe-Rhodesia should get down to business again tomorrow. They've been considering Britain's plan to run the country before new elections. But it hasn't been all work. Mr. Ian Smith took time off to see the All Blacks playing at Twickenham.
Like the rest of the delegates, Mr. Smith has spent more time out of the conference than in. Today it was time to feed his passion for rugby. Destination Twickenham for London versus the All Blacks. If it comes to a straight choice between politics and rugby, he says he'd opt for Twickenham. He's not been here enough.
Not a great number of times, maybe 4 or 5 times in my life, just to see a game of rugby. I've never seen one of the big internationals, though.
Did you ever imagine during all the years of UDI that you would ever come back to England and come back to Twickenham, for example?
Yes, I am an optimist, and I always hoped that this would take place. Now, after all, we're part and parcel of Britain. We have friends, even family friends here, so I've always believed I would come back.
Do you think you're going to be here much longer to see much more rugby?
Well, you must ask the British people who are evading the issue and keeping us sitting, twiddling our thumbs. Don't ask me. I hope not too long.
In the eyes of many, he's now as much a spectator in the future of Zimbabwe-Rhodesia as he was here today. At least there was some consolation in the result. He'll have been pleased the Colonials won. Final score, London 18, the New Zealand All Blacks 21. David Smith, ITN, Twickenham.
A report just out shows that 10,000 children are playing truant every day in Birmingham. The report's been compiled by a working party of educationalists, psychologists and social workers. They say in many cases that truancy is condoned by the parents.
It isn't a problem peculiar to Birmingham. In fact, the 500 schools here, it seems, suffer no more nor no less than those in any of our big cities.
Gina, Callaghan, where is hospital?
At morning registration on an average day, the teacher knows that for every 18 children present, it's likely there'll be 2 away. And the odds are that one of them is just playing hooky. In Birmingham, that adds up to 10,000 empty desks each day that should have been filled by a truant child. As one local councillor says, it's a frightening figure. But even more worrying is the report's finding that the parents of many children are encouraging them to stay off school.
Yes. Some mothers, for example, do not get up until midday, and so their small children, of course, are not sent to school. Alternatively, a mother will think in terms of a child going shopping for her, or of looking after parents if they're ill at home, and one can understand that rather more. But they're depriving their children of their future.
It would seem that parents keeping their children deliberately away from school, that the consequences of that could really be very serious.
Well, I believe so. It's bad for the child, as I've said, it's bad for the parents, it's bad for society as a whole. And certainly in this world, more training is needed, more education, and the youngsters must be encouraged to go to school.
Well, as you can imagine, it's been a pretty hectic day here at ITN. My colleagues, Alistair Burnett and Anna Ford, are getting ready for News at 10 tonight with the rest of the production team. News at 1 will be back tomorrow. ITV's special national service continues until the autumn schedules start on Monday, but some regional magazine programmes will also be back tomorrow. And they'll be pulling the pints again down at the Rovers' Return at 7:30 tonight, and that's music to the ears of millions.
When life in Coronation Street came to an abrupt halt, 15 million viewers were left in the lurch. Since then, truly faithful fans have been able to look through a tiny grille which allows the public a peep at the North Country street that's perhaps the best known in Britain. Today they were able to watch the first signs of life as the production team rushed to complete tonight's show. With the storyline suspended back in sunny August, the producers and scriptwriters have got quite a job on their hands. So they decided to remind people where they left off by having 2 of the stars, Len Fairclough and Bet Lynch, to remind people of all the gossip. And what have they really been doing all the while?
I'm afraid it probably sounds rather boring. I've had decorators in and things like that, getting my home sort of together. Nothing very, very exciting, really.
So
and waiting for the phone call to come back.
And big day today, then, obviously.
Very big for both of us, for all of us, yes.
Have you got lots of surprises in store for us now?
Yes. Watch
lots, lots. We haven't seen each other for 8 weeks. Are they still with us?
I think so.
With the camera?
I think so.
Welcome back.
Thank you, darling.
What will his wife say? Soccer now. Leeds United now face an uphill struggle in the European Cup Winners' Cup competition. This afternoon they lost 2-0 to the Romanian side Universitatea Craiova in the first leg of their second-round match. They now need 3 clear goals at home in a fortnight to be sure of qualifying. The Test and County Cricket Board have said they'll decide on Friday whether or not to put the Ashes at stake in the Test series in Australia this winter. This follows a speech by Ray Steele of the Australian board in which he accused Lords of being too chicken to risk the Ashes.
This week, the English cricket authorities here at Lords have been considering the paradox that having spent so much time...
Well, we know the sum. I'm not going to discuss the sum at this moment. I think the sum should be told to our board first and then to our shareholders. And when they know, it'll become public knowledge.
It must be after 75 days. They're very considerable.
It is a considerable sum of money.
Paul Fox, Managing Director of Yorkshire Television.
Is against the national interest, but the Institute of Directors have congratulated the Chancellor for doing it. Reports from New York say the Shah of Iran has been operated on for cancer. And that's the news so far this evening. I hope you all begin to enjoy your regular programs from all of us here at ITN. Until tomorrow, goodbye.
And here's tonight's lineup. In a moment, Dudley Moore joins Kermit and Miss Piggy in the Muppet Show. At 6:35, life goes on at the Crossroads Motel. And 7 brings a wedding anniversary for George and Mildred. 7:30 is the time for catching up with Coronation Street. While at 8, Ted Rogers' guests in 3-2-1 are Norman Wisdom, Anna Dawson and Rita Webb. At 9, Quatermass. John Mills, as the famous professor, begins a battle for the planet's survival. While after news at 10, Chinatown at 10:30 involves Jack Nicholson and Faye Dunaway in a tale of corruption in Los Angeles. Tonight's Welcome Home from ITV.
Welcome, welcome, welcome home to ITV, ITV.
Oh, Dudley Moore. 15 seconds to curtain, Mr. Moore.
Thanks, Scooter. Say, I'm having a bit of trouble getting this piano in tune. Can you give me an A?
Sure, easy.
It's the Muppet Show with our very special guest star, Dudley Moore. Yeah!
It's time to play the music. It's time to light the light. It's time to get me started. Why don't you get me started?
Watch what you say tonight. I think the place is bugged.
Get things started on the most sensational, inspirational celebration.